Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to convene the meeting of Drainage, Roads, Buildings, and Lands at 6 o'clock. Are you taking this, Rodney, or is Paul?
Mr. Chairman, I could start off if you wish.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andres. And so tonight's meeting in general, we're going to talk about the road program, a couple bikeway projects, Safe Routes to School project on Pickle Road, and then eventually sidewalks. I know that William Madubo, our engineer, put out a memo to City Council. It does go through quite a bit, and it really just covers the road program, both local, which is the neighborhood street projects, versus the main roads. And we do have some major road projects this year: Star Avenue from the from West Corp line to Wheeling Street, and then Navarre Avenue from Isaac Streets to Coy. But that gives quite a bit. So Rodney will take over here in a little bit and go through that, and then talk about also our bikeway project. We have some ordinances on for tonight, so it's like a precursor to that meeting to talk about our Oregon Town Center Phase 5 project, which is a bikeway project. Wheeling Street is also another grant project which we've received money for, and then the Safe Routes to School project on Pickle Road. And then Andrea will talk about sidewalks and some of the issues we've had through the years. I know some of the councilmen have reached out to me in the last few months asking about gaps in neighborhoods where there are no sidewalks. And I know through the years we've had target locations where we tried to go after grants to get sidewalks. And I know council has ordered in sidewalks on Navarre Avenue so many years ago because you had a lot of people going in the street of Navarre Avenue. So it's something to talk about. And sometimes memos aren't really enough, and a meeting is really better to have. So that's why we decided to ask for this meeting. So I'll turn it over to Rodney then.
Thanks, Paul. So with the road program, basically in the budget this year, there's a roughly $800,000 is what was budgeted for it. So we started looking at roads. We typically meet our office internally. We meet with Keith Henninger, kind of go over the conditions of the roads, where we feel the money would be best spent that year. We also go out typically annually and drive all of our roads and do more of a windshield rating, 1 to 10, 10 being like a brand new road, and down to 1, which would be completely failed. But so we kind of target roads that are like in 4 and 5 range, where they would fall in our paving program. So this year we had kind of selected, originally we were targeting Holly Drive, and we were really looking at the southern section of Holly Drive, and then also another section of Springwood Drive. We did another section of that area last year, and both of those roads are going to need a complete reconstruct, and I'll show you some pictures here in a minute as to why we need to reconstruct these roads as opposed to just doing a simple mill the asphalt and put another layer of asphalt on top. But when we went back out and kind of reevaluated Holly Drive, the northern section was just as bad, or maybe even in worse shape than the southern section. So we decided we probably should do all of Holly. So our plan is we'll bid out Holly Drive and also Springwood, see where the numbers come in, see if we can maybe allocate a little bit more. I always kind of nudge Nick in the hallway or whenever, see if we can get an extra 100,000 here or there to try to do a little bit more for the roads. So hopefully maybe we can do a little bit more. So this would be our paving program this year. So here you can see Holly Drive is right down here. There's a northern and southern section. This is Springwood. Also this year with our grant funding through ODOT, the Navarre Safety Project, this section of Navarre, basically from Isaac Streets Drive up to where the Coy project left off, will get resurfaced as part of that safety project. And then the purple is the Star and Wheeling project that was just awarded, I believe last week or within the last week or so. So we do have some larger projects as well. And then on the horizon, we have funding from ODOT for, this is urban paving funds to pave this section of Navarre, resurface it from Lallendorf to basically Athens. And then That would be in '27, and then in year '28, we would pave the westernmost section of Navarre, starting at the West Corp limit all the way up to basically Isaac Streets Drive. When the safety project was installed on that section of Navarre, we did what was called a microsurfacing. It was not a true mill and fill asphalt. So actually, I was pleasantly surprised how the microsurfacing actually held up. It's held up pretty well, but starting to see some of the cracks coming back through and some issues. So we've got that program for 2028 for resurfacing there. In the packet, this is our road rating map. Like I said, we kind of go out and rate those. A lot of times we get marketed for, hiring a company. They'll go out and do it a lot more scientific, but we feel what we do is adequate for the roads that we have. We have a pretty good handle on what needs to be done. A lot of the areas kind of south of Star here, where Holly is, in that neighborhood, they were built in 50s, 60s timeframe. A lot of them have concrete road, and then when the concrete started to deteriorate, the city had put a layer of asphalt on. Well, the last time we went in, we milled off the asphalt, made some repairs to the concrete, and then put the asphalt back. Well, it's been 20, 25 years now, and that concrete is basically starting to deteriorate even worse. And by the time you peel that asphalt off, you're really not going to be able to resurface it. So that's why we're kind of into a reconstruct. This is kind of the list of the roads that we feel need kind of resurfaced or reconstructed in the next 5 years or so. And if you look at the list, it's about $10 million worth of road work. So just trying to show what all is out there that needs to be done. Here's kind of an example. This was last year when we resurfaced or reconstructed Eastmoreland South. This was kind of the condition of the road. You can see the asphalt, and then as the asphalt's peeling off, you can start to see the underlying concrete, which is, you can go in there and, when they take the excavator bucket, they scrape it and it basically turns to stone. Here's another section where you can see where the deterioration was. Here's kind of a good example of where this was on another section where we just needed to do a small little repair, but we've gone in and milled off the asphalt, but you can see the underlying concrete is completely shattered and in not good shape. So that's why we need to do a total reconstruct, because we can go in there and kind of repair this, but or try to, but if you tried to resurface over this within a couple years, that's going to come right back. So here's last year where they started ripping out the road. You can see there's basically it's concrete, and there's no stone base under the roads out there. And this section of the city, there's kind of a really sandy soil, unlike the rest of the city, and it doesn't support. It's got poor support, and I don't know if that's why they selected concrete back in the day. But the problem now is would be very difficult to put back a concrete road, and even doing that, you still gotta add stone and things like that, and it takes time. So here's just showing, we go in, we tear everything out. You can see that's not our normal clay. That's a very sandy, silty soil. They're prepping it. We use GeoGrid down to help kind of spread the load out, because even this soil, you can keep digging. You're not going to get to where you have a nice, solid, hard base. So it's a matter of trying to figure out how you can bridge it to get it constructed and put back together. The pipe you see out there are under drains, so that way when moisture gets into the new road base, it'll be able to have a place to get out and try to keep the base dry. Here you can see the GeoGrid being placed, the material there. Again, a few more examples of that. Here, after the curbs have been placed, we kind of have a layer of stone there, but then still need to top it off. Then the asphalt is kind of the whole process. Yes.
Let me say one thing. Just if I so a lot of the older roads too, you had a lot of downspouts and sump pumps coming through the curb line, and then through the years, the street department at that time would just pave over like an inch, and you'd block half that flow, and that water would just seep underneath that asphalt, get into the concrete, and then it would just be freeze and thaw every winter. So that's what led to it. So when we put in these under drains, we try to tie every one of those lines that were going through the curb right into the under drain. That's the way it's straight. And then we'll put a clean out in so that you don't lose sight of where it's at, and you can always pop it to clean it right at that location, all right?
And then when we're constructing this, we basically have the contractor, they tear out a section and then get it stoned back in the same day to try to maintain access to the property owners. And we do actually last year, I think maybe we did too good of a job providing notices, because I know William was out on a Friday handing out a notice, and one gentleman said, hey, I already know what you're doing. Kind of threw the notice back, said, you're giving me too many. So I guess that's a good sign that we are communicating and people know what to expect. So that's what would be entailed for Holly Drive, and also what we're talking about for Springwood would be a total reconstruction like that. So just kind of wanted to give everybody kind of an understanding of what that process involves, and that's why these roads are kind of costly, because we kind of have to reconstruct them, because that underlying concrete, it's reached its useful life. And if we were to just go in there and just try to mill it off and try to put the asphalt on, one, we're gonna struggle to even, get it on there. And then within 2 to 3 years, you're gonna start to see cracks coming back, and it's just not gonna be pretty. So I know the last time we actually paved the section of Holly, there was a section we had to redo because the trucks were sinking and we couldn't, yeah. So that's kind of why, these roads are kind of costly to reconstruct. So I guess any questions from anybody in terms of the road program? Because our basically what we'd like to get is just kind of a concurrence, or at least making sure everybody's okay with our moving forward, because our next step would be we're ready to bid these 2 projects out and get those on the street. So that way, probably within a month or so, we'll come back and be looking to award the contract, so. Yeah, and then street department is planning to go out and do small repairs. They've got some newer equipment that they'll be able to do minor asphalt repairs, similar to the one that you saw. They're more like temporary patches where they'll be able to kind of mill out the worst areas, especially spots where we've done a lot of cold patching. They can go in and kind of clean that up and give it at least a little bit of a fresher look, but it's more of a Band-Aid, a temporary, to get us by us a couple more years. And then if there's larger areas, we would look to maybe get some informal quotes from contractors. Because once we have, contractors selected, they know they're in town, we feel like we could get some decent pricing to go out and maybe do some larger repairs on roads, just to kind of eliminate some of the potholes and areas where we have a lot of patching, and have that buy us a few more years until we can get in there and actually do a full mill and replacement, So if I guess if there aren't any questions about the road program, we can move on to the next subject, but.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. President.
Mr. Schultz, just out of curiosity, I can't remember. I know they've been videoing a lot on Holly and I think part of Eastmoreland. If there's sewers, storm sewers that are caving in, or are they, I guess the question I should ask first, the storm sewers are up on the grass side?
I believe so, but I know we had crews out last week kind of videoing the crossovers. So we do inspect the inlets. Sometimes we have to do a reconstruct, sometimes it's just an adjust. Sometimes we do have to replace the crossovers, so we do go out and video those and then determine if we need to do a replacement of anything.
Okay. And do you know, have they done any replacements yet that you know of, or they will go in and?
The replacements
assess it all?
would be part of the project, so that would be one of the bid items in the project.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's it.
Good. Mr. Chairman, one thing I want to know, even on the conditions map, I noticed York Street had a serious condition, And for a long time there, for the second power plant, we thought for sure they're gonna run a water line. They had an agreement to have Toledo run a water line over to just that plant. And, we had an agreement between us, that developer, and City of Toledo. I don't know if that's going to occur or not, but that's one of the reasons we didn't pave York Street, because of the fear of if we put a water, we're not gonna put in a new street and then have a new water line going. Even with Toledo's project, they're gonna go into York Street, so that's why that's been left that way. And in some cases, we may do that. If we're planning a water line or a storm sewer project, we may wait on the paving, just to get those underground work done first, that's all, so, that's all.
Mr. Chairman? Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Roman, is there any way that we can compel Toledo to redo York Street
As a portion of
as
their.
portion of their project
But
if they're going to be tearing it up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, Dennis, I think they do go through the intersection, but it's possible they're boring. They may be boring through all of that, just so you know. A lot of that is brand new. By the way, the York Street and Otter Creek Road is actually a pretty good intersection. It's all concrete.
Yep.
It's just our section is all asphalt. So it just depends if they're in our area. They would have to if they were.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I had a question on the new paving. What you see a lot of times, that center seam is where the deterioration starts. Is there anything they can do to maybe get that to come together better, that won't happen?
I think a lot of it's just the timing of when they pave it, how they seal it together. But because it is a joint, basically, that's gonna be where eventually water will get in. Our biggest thing is getting in and doing crack sealing, which we do a pretty decent job going in and crack sealing the roads. So once it starts to open up a little bit, getting it crack sealed to keep that water from getting down and in it. But, they should be putting a sealer on the edge a little bit and then paving, when they go to pave, so.
It's one of my biggest pet peeves, when they do it and they don't kiss the two layers up against each other. You would think on perfect conditions that you would think you'd see no joint there. But a longitudinal joint is not as much problem as a lateral joint. Lateral joint, you're hearing boom, 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 boom. Longitudinal, you never feel it, see? And that's what the middle joint is, so. But I think they should kiss, for sure, see?
Thank you.
Yeah. So if there isn't much on that, first of all, you're just seeing the memo for the first time, so please, by all means, look at it. Give us a call during the week if you have an issue with it. Be nice to know if you did have an objection to what we're doing, just let us know soon, because it is important to get that bid out sooner. So then we'll go with the other projects, which we do have ordinances on tonight. We'll touch upon again. Well, let's just go through the bikeway projects then. Roger.
So just kind of wanted to give a little bit of history, our bikeway program, we've had a master plan in place for years. We've been, kind of working our way. What you see in red here is where the bikeway exists. We've had a lot of small little projects, mile projects here and there where we got grant funding to basically kind of construct our bikeway network over the years. Oregon Bikeway program kind of started in the early 90s with the Star Avenue bike lanes. Then late, I think 1999, we put in the bike path along Bayshore Road, and then it kind of just expanded. Our goal was to connect Maumee Bay State Park to Pearson Park, going through our complex and the Star Avenue bike lanes, which we have. So now we're kind of focusing on kind of the connectors to it, and that's where, we completed the section of the Oregon Trail Bikeway from Star Avenue down to Navarre last year. Prior to that, we connected it all the way down the Brown Road from Pickle. So the project that we have on tonight, tonight that we'll discuss, would be the Oregon Trail Phase 5 project, which will kind of connect from the Aldi's Light and into Town Center along Dustin Road. So I've got a few more maps that kind of show that. But just to show you, we've had this master plan out there and have been working towards it over the years, basically the last 25 years. The There was also a master plan developed between Oregon and Northwood to kind of create a plan to try to connect both of our communities and expand a little bit. That plan was approved by, or adopted by the city of Oregon. Here is the plan, which basically incorporates our master plan into it, but then expands down into Wood County to kind of show connections in the Northwood, to tie into some of their parks and things and beyond. Just highlighting a couple things in that plan. It does talk about some sort of facility along Wheeling Street, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then also along Pickle Road, talks about facilities as well. Then just kind of highlighting the Oregon Comprehensive Master Plan. Spread throughout it, there's a lot of language about connectivity, creating trails, those type of things. Mobility is highlighted or expressed quite a bit in the plan. Trying to expand our trail network and make connectivity where we have gaps. So just kind of highlighting a lot of those things. There were I think 1,000 people responded to the survey, and a large percentage of them wanted to see these type of amenities and see more of them. So just kind of highlighting those items here. The other is in Town Center, the plan talked about walkability. I know with the development that's going on out there, I was really pushing to make sure that they had sidewalks that connected to Navarre, that there's a little bit wider sidewalk, which kind of really had to push to defend in between Chick-fil-A and Starbucks, although it kind of got squeezed down, but I had to, we had to really push to maintain that connectivity and try to maintain access from Navarre back into the site, so that way it will be very walkable. But, so the project we'll be talking about is the Oregon Trail Phase 5 Bikeway Project, which originally the city was just gonna fund this project with just local funds. There was a round of transportation alternative funds through TMACOG that came out, so we decided to apply for a grant for that back in 2023, which City Council did authorize us to apply for those funds. So that Phase 5 Bikeway project will be basically replacing the sidewalk along the south side of Dustin Road and replacing it with a 10-foot wide concrete path. It also connects where there's some gaps, like currently that sidewalk, there's gaps there. This will create a continuous pedestrian path. Then when it goes onto the east side of Coy Road, kind of use an existing segment of roadway that's really just a dead end where there's only a couple houses, so very low volume. We'll create a small section of asphalt path, then use the section of Dustin that's at the dead end of Athens. And then it'll go behind, the city has a 25-foot right-of-way that's behind the houses on Warden, and the properties off of Navarre, there's a right-of-way through there was the Dustin Road right-of-way, essentially. We'll be constructing the path in that, and then once we get behind the houses on Schmidlin and up against the Dairy Depot property, it'll head north. Again, there's a 25-foot property that the city owns, and then it'll go out to Navarre and connect to the traffic signal in Aldi's and kind of tie all that in together. So, so that is the Phase 5 Trail project. Again, we received $400,000 in grant funding to help towards the construction of that project. One thing I did want to mention along Dustin Road, we're on the south side. So the section where the median is, the right-of-way is kind of tight there because with the median widened out and there were 2 lanes there. So decided to kind of eliminate the 1 lane. It'll just be 1 lane in this direction going through there, so that way it provided room in the existing right-of-way for us to put the path in there and to provide a little bit more green space between the sidewalk and the existing parking lots as well. So kind of make that a little bit more pedestrian and bike-friendly. So just kind of letting people know about that. I guess any questions about that project specifically? Because that one, we have open bids, and that's what we'll be talking about later tonight, is awarding that project. So happy to answer any questions if you got anything about that one before we jump to the next one.
Just one question, Rodney. The red portion here that you have that goes behind Warden, I believe,
Yes,
is that unimproved right away?
yes,
Okay, do the homeowners know that there's a paper street there?
yes.
Okay, because a lot of times when you start building, people. Okay, because you saw that in Perrysburg when there was a paper street down by the river that people realized wasn't there. But if they're aware of it, correct?
So when we first started the design on the project, we did send out a survey notice to all the property owners, so they were notified. And then actually in the last week or so, because we have to start some of the tree removals and tree clearing, we did deliver additional notices, so they are aware of the
Okay,
project.
thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Waldenczak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The funds that are coming out of, are we gonna have any local funds to this project? Yeah, there's a local match. So with the local match, would we be able to recoup those costs through the TIF? Because it is in the business district? And,
Yeah, Mr.
well, I mean,
Chair.
eventually there's gonna be money that's gonna be collected, and we can keep tabs of that and repay ourselves for anything that we do there. That's the idea of the TIF, right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to comment, it would be, only be up to the property, up to Coy Road.
Correct.
Because that would be in the.
That's our-
Yep, that's where we'll have to keep track, well, if we can keep track of that separately.
The project list keeps growing.
Yes.
I mean, it's just an idea, that if we keep track of that, let's pay ourselves back.
We were talking about a fence to block garbage from crossing Troy Road. But seriously, that's what those TIF dollars are for.
Eventually, there'll be money there. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions on this project in particular? So the other project that we'll be presenting tonight would be Wheeling Street. We were able to get grant funds. Basically, this project's 100% funded for construction. Wheeling Street is a US bike route, and we were able to get funding to basically replace the existing 5-foot sidewalk with an 11-foot wide paved trail. We've noticed that there's a lot of pedestrian and bike traffic. There's the apartments to the north, and to the south you have Myers and different things. So you have a lot of people that use that path. Also, you have the Mountain View neighborhood right here. This will provide them with a connection and a trail connection that really haven't had in that portion of the city. There are sidewalks along Pickle Road, so on both sides. Currently, there's a sidewalk only on the west side. So it'll start down at the south corp limit and terminate right up at 280. And there's the yellow section here is an existing 8-foot concrete path that's gonna remain. That was part of the hospital, so.
One thing I want to note is that Wheeling Street also is a truck route for TRC, and they are Michigan-loaded trucks. So it's odd that, you have this US 30 route on Wheeling Street that at one time, I don't know we were quite aware of it. Then we were made aware of it, and we're like, wow, we're going through it, and it's, So we thought really and I see it, I witness it a lot. I see a lot of people either in the grass or going around somebody walking on the sidewalk. You think 5 foot's, it's not enough for this path. And there's only one side of the road as it is now, because TRC did not want a sidewalk on their side for security reasons. So it's been a tough situation, but the Bay Park campus is very attractive, and just to allow people in the apartments in Copper Copper Cove and Piccadilly to have access to it is, I think, even more of a need, let alone the trucks on Wheeling. But I just thought I'd mention that. By the way, the trucks really just come up Wheeling from Woodville Road, either go into TRC's tank farm, and then they get up to 280, and they get onto Munding and then go north is their path. So I'm just saying. But this project, Rodney, the money wouldn't be available till when? Was it 27?
Oh, yeah, so we would be in design this year, and then construction would be next year. And this was ODOT had a special solicitation for these funds, and they were looking for projects that had a quick turnaround that didn't entail any right-of-way and were kind of something that they could fund pretty quickly, so.
Also, there's no right-of-way involved with this project. And we have talked to most of the owners. I talked to Bill Myers tonight. He asked, do I need to show up? I said, well, we don't need a right-of-way, I can tell you that.
Right.
And I think it's pretty simple. He said, okay. And I said, he didn't mention, hey, if you're ever gonna widen the roads, we prefer that. It's better for farm equipment. And I said, okay. And that's it.
Mr. Chairman?
Ed, Mr. Waldenzeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then I would think that we would be looking at somehow tying in a better path up Pickle to get into town center and tie that bike path into the town center through Town Center Drive. I'm assuming
I
that's
can
what
say
our
this
goal
right
would be.
now. Pickle Road does have two 5-foot wide
Bike
or excuse me, sidewalks on
Sidewalks,
both
yes.
sides of Pickle, all the way to town center from Wheeling.
Okay, all right, so we wouldn't have to improve that at all?
No.
Okay, great,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
I think also, I think Pickle, that's one road, like, kind of like Coy, where maybe in the future we would look to maybe put in a paved shoulder essentially, and that would kind of create options for people to use the shoulder or the sidewalks as well, just depends. So, yep. So next, kind of wanted to talk about our Safe Routes to School program and kind of give everybody kind of a little bit of history. Safe Routes to School kind of started back in 2005 is when Safe Routes to School was kind of created. ODOT created the program and rolled it out. They really didn't know, the feds wanted the money to get spent and wanted programs started. So back in 2007, actually probably in 2006, the city and Oregon Schools teamed up and we wrote our own school travel plan. So that way we would be in a position to go after actual infrastructure funds when the first round of grants came out. So this was back in September of '07, we wrote a plan and then actually submitted our application in that year. We were funded for the sidewalks along Star Avenue, which would be from basically Coy School over to, I think that's Whittlesey or Berlin. If you remember back then, there were no sidewalks there. Kids would walk the bike lanes. It was very unsafe. And so this project got funded and we actually constructed it, which is kind of crazy when I was looking through the history. We got awarded the project, submitted the application in '07, and this is the ribbon cutting ceremony in October. In Josette asked that question. So this was in October of 2008. So within a year, we turned that project around. And this was the very first Safe Routes to School project, infrastructure project constructed in the state of Ohio with these funds. So we're pretty proud of that because we prepared our own plan. Most other communities went and we're applying to get consultants to prepare their plans. We prepared our own plan. Andrea did the design in-house, so we were able to design it in-house and get it constructed within a year. So not many communities can say that they did that. Then we turned around and in that same year, we applied for the second round of funding for Star Avenue from Coy Road out to Lallendorf, and then the sidewalks along Pickle Road, basically from Coy School and down in front of Cardinal Stritch. And that project got funded. We didn't turn that one around quite as fast. Actually, Andrew and I.
Baby number 2, I decided.
Yeah. But that project, if you're familiar with the section along Star Avenue here, it kind of meanders a little bit, but it's mainly, we were staying within the right-of-way, trying to, yeah.
We had to go up and around different things, and then drainage was also difficult for these projects.
But it obviously, it's been there, it's functions. So that kind of brings us to today. In 2023, we decided we probably need to upgrade our travel plan, and we got approval through council to actually go after funds, or to have ODOT actually hire a consultant for us to update our travel plan. So we were able to get funded for that. Tool Design was the consultant that prepared it for us. Back in November of 2023, we had an open house at Coy School. Here we are there, invited people in to give their input. Then I think it might have been even that same week, we went out and did walking audits in different areas. I think Mr. Drake, or Councilman Drake, you actually attended, if I remember right, one of the walking audits. So went out, kind of looked to help prepare the plan. Then there was another open house in February of 2024 to kind of present the final plan, get last minute input so we can get it finalized. The plan, here was the school travel plan that was prepared in March. This is kind of the plan around Pickle Road, shows some additional sidewalks, paths, things like that. The plan was adopted by City Council. Then we actually requested City Council approval to go after funds for the next phase of Pickle Road, which we have been awarded. And that's what's on the agenda for tonight, would be to enter into an LPA agreement with ODOT to accept those funds and move forward with that project. So that project is basically installing sidewalks from Laura Lane over to the dog park, the Y driveway on both the north and south. It'll also connect into town center, provides nice connection to the existing apartments and things like that, would give them a path to walk to Coy School. I did get an email from one of the new owners in town center saying that, hey, can we get a sidewalk connection, because my son has to walk to the bus stop and there's not a sidewalk. So, we've gotten quite a few requests for this section of Pickle Road for improvements. So, and then the other section would be east of Coy School, from their property over to the existing bike path, looking at putting in a bike path there, and then tying in the neighborhoods, making connections with sidewalks to make connections to those existing facilities. So that's what that project kind of entails.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Balfe.
this one sidewalk sticks in my head, and I want to know who put it there, how it got there, but it's from Eastmoreland North, Eastmoreland South, and it goes all the way to Star School, so all the kids in the neighborhood could walk in between these houses, and it's not on the street, it goes right through the middle.
From the apartments up to the Star Elementary.
Oh, so it's from like
that was years
Yorktown
ago.
up?
Yeah, that was done years ago, yeah.
And they were the ones that put it in, or?
I think probably when the development of the apartments came in, they put that in.
Now, did they have to get permission from those homeowners and stuff?
Yeah, I think it
or-
was part of that subdivision layout.
It is, it's in their plat map.
Yeah.
It is?
It's in their plat.
So,
Because I mean, those are great, because they're
Well,
off the
like-
street.
Like Eden Park, we made them put in a path
Yeah.
from their neighborhood to our complex here.
Uh-huh.
They weren't happy with us, but yeah.
So that's the reason why you really can't do more of it.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you gotta buy right away otherwise. But yeah, when you're doing the initial platting, yeah, that's when you make that argument.
And who's responsible for shoveling it?
Well, that's another battle, because then it becomes the adjacent property owner typically should be it. Yes.
Wow. I always
It's like a
wondered about that
sidewalk.
walk.
It'd be just like a sidewalk. Yeah.
Oh, it goes right through the neighborhood. Thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Gibbs.
are there any plans for a sidewalk on Seaman here? Because I see a lot of high schoolers walking down the street, you know, or they're in the grass or in the ditches and.
So as part of our Safe Routes to School plan, Clay High School was also evaluated. So we have a travel plan, and it does show sidewalks, a certain section. There's a section actually from the existing bike path over to Pearson Park, looking at possibly a trail on that section, kind of similar to what we're proposing here, would be a bike path. So that would be kind of a bike path out front here.
Just to note that. On all your east-west roads in Oregon, you always have more right-of-way on the south side. That's usually where your storm sewer's at. So there's always more right-of-way. You can usually do more. On the north side, it's barely enough right-of-way for a water line. So if you're gonna do a path east-west, it's gonna be on the south side of a road. So you could do that from, and actually this complex would be a part of it, obviously, and there's always that debate of sidewalks versus a bike path. I guess if we got right away, I think, we got one property owner here in this room, but, you know, I think the preference may be a bike path, because I know the city takes maintenance of it, whereas sidewalks is typically assessed and the maintenance is on the property owner. So, now, I can tell you on Pickle, we did get phone calls, and some weren't too thrilled about the bike path, because it's like more into their yard, you know, but when you think about sidewalks and the potential of assessing them someday and the fact that you're not maintaining a bike path, they might like it then. So it just depends. So, you got someone like Bill Myers who'd rather just have you widen the road and, you know, put in bike lanes, you know.
Thank you.
One thing about all these projects is we say LPA, that's local public agency, and basically part of the deal of getting grant dollars is us, the city, taking on engineering either in design or construction as well. And by doing so, you do save money, but it also makes you more eligible for more grant dollars. So because we have an engineering department, we can do these things in-house. But part of this, when it is a large project like this, we do need help on the survey. And so we will go to an outside surveying company to help assist us so that our engineers can get that data put in, actually downloaded. I know I make it sound easy, but it's not. But it can, if they prep that for us, we can design quite a bit in-house.
Mr. Roman, I know
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah, do ya?
Yeah. They're gone. I know a surveyor.
He's off the list now.
Yeah, I got one.
Everybody's looking at you.
Yeah.
Yes, I was, but
Sorry.
what was the question?
No, we were just saying fun, that there's another surveyor that's not available for us anymore.
Yes, I understand that. But I don't like doing topographic surveys that much.
Okay, so those are the three main, and Rodney has ordinances to present tonight. DGL is who you have a quote from for survey work.
Yes.
We originally went to them for design, and their costs were super high, and we just thought, you know what, let's do it in-house. So, and we do save money doing that. All right, and then let's talk about sidewalks then, while we got time. We'll have Andrea talk on that.
I will talk about sidewalks, and where we're at, where we've been, where do we need to go? Who has the clicker? You have the clicker. Maybe, if I can. Yep. The sidewalk program in the city of Oregon was originally initiated in 2004. And our original intent of our city sidewalk program was to inspect the existing infrastructure throughout the city. That went on for many years, taking neighborhood by neighborhood and assessing, actually then, once we conducted those inspections, we notified property owners of their responsibility to maintain their sidewalks. Some were not happy, but others made repairs, and we were pretty generous on they could make their own repairs, they could do their own replacements, or if they didn't want to do those on their own, once a time timeframe expired, we then bid out the work, and then we assessed to each property owner for the work that happened just on their property. So I think over the years, our greatest assessment was maybe $2,500 on a large corner property that had quite a bit of sidewalk to do, and then we would assess it over 2 years on their property taxes. So in those years, we went through and we made repairs. We did take on, if a sidewalk was damaged due to trees in the right-of-way, or maybe a manhole in the sidewalk, the city took on the burden of repairing those. And we still do. I get calls weekly, monthly, on trees that have lifted sidewalks, and I continually inspect those. And the last year, and again this year, we are having our street department go and attend to those. As we get a list of them, I pass those on to the street department for us to make those repairs. So at this point, about 2017, we finalized getting through the whole city. In 2007, we addressed some concerns that we were seeing after about 3 years into the sidewalk program. Some things kind of became apparent. And at that same time, we were starting to get the conversation about the lack of sidewalk on Navarre, mainly getting pedestrians to Walmart was a big concern. So we, at that time, put together a couple of lists. One list was parcels that were along major routes, Navarre, Coy, Wheeling, Star. So we made those and we started to prioritize where do we really need to look at, what funding is available, how can we go about getting these sidewalks and get the pedestrian access available on in those areas. The next list that we made was for parcels within a developed subdivision. This is what I started to see as I'm inspecting these neighborhoods. We have a fully developed subdivision minus 1 or 2 parcels. So if you're pushing your stroller, where do you go? You gotta go into the street or walk across the grass at that parcel. So this highlights some of the major sidewalks that were completed, and I was surprised to see that first list that I mentioned right here, parcels without sidewalks along the major routes. This list, these projects here, basically completed that whole first list. So over the years, we were successful in receiving money through some ODOT projects. So maybe it was a paving project and we were able to do sidewalk work. So we were able to complete those major routes. We had additional projects that we completed with either a community development block grant or Safe Routes to School, and then Wheeling Street. So you see a lot of our major routes were getting hit with grants when we could apply for those and qualify for those. So again, now we're kind of at that point we are ready to revisit that second list. What do we do about these neighborhoods that maybe have 1 or 2 parcels that are not developed? I've highlighted, there's eight maps, and I'll skim through them quickly. Here, we've got a whole development, East Hampton, Beechwood plat is what this one is. We have one little parcel. And then we've got a couple on Seaman Road. These are not part of the platted subdivision, but now with the red lines, you see how we've got one little gap with no sidewalk. Next is Mountain View, and again, we're talking about replacing this leg up here, but we still have one little gap that we don't have access to with sidewalk. And here we had the funding to get Wheeling Street sidewalk in. However, the funding wouldn't allow us to make this little connection. So we've got one little connection that we can't make. Here's at Springview. We've got a couple parcels. Percolande, half of a parcel. So the This is a combined parcel, but half of it doesn't have sidewalk. Laura Lane, one parcel. The Drake, one parcel. Eastwick has a few more. These are all owned by the apartment owner, and they've been like this for quite a while, it's probably 70s. And so you've got this neighborhood that they are missing that connection. Eagles Landing has been a hot topic. And this one is a little difficult because you've got a few that were the old Jacobs Road in the middle that are not part of the subdivision. So you've got this gap here. And then the golf course. So you've got a couple gaps, but for these people over on this west end of the subdivision, you could almost get all the way through the park on a pathway and then make your way all the way to Maumee Bay State Park, minus these few little connections. So this is where we're at. At some point, we need to have a little conversation on how do we address these. Typically, a sidewalk is put in by the property owner. So do we look at, do we require this person to put in the sidewalk? Do we, how do we really move forward with getting that last sidewalk in?
One thing I want to note to council that with the newer subdivisions, we made a requirement that you have to put that sidewalk in. There's no debate, and it's automatic. I think we give them 2 years, Rodney, I believe, from the day that subdivision's built, but the old subdivisions didn't have language like that. So that's what you're dealing with. You have these older subdivisions that have somebody who bought a lot, they either put a garden on it or whatever else they have on it, and they have no plans to sell it, but yet people in the neighborhood are always complaining about it. Now, the hard part is, if you, in order to, either they volunteer to do it, which they're probably not going to, or the city council orders it in. And you would do it just like what we've done in the past with existing sidewalk, where there's a problem with stub toe or whatever. A lot of times if you group these projects into one big project, you can get a lower unit price, but council has to be the bad guy here in terms of ordering it in. So the question is, are you guys willing to do that? Because we're willing to carry it out if you are. I just know and I'm not, I think there's a lot of people out there that have come to us, they'd be glad to show up here and make their case for their neighborhood. But I do think it's something you need to think about, because I know in Eagles Landing, I talked to Mark Rigg, who was definitely involved with that subdivision, and they had some money that they had collected where they could do perhaps the park areas. But as for doing everything, whether if it was a residential lot, that really should be assessed. And I agree with him on that. So I think it is a question of how far do we want to go with any one of these. But I think it'd be worth it to put together a program that would include all of the gap where the neighborhood is 98% developed. You can tell they're not going to sell the lot. We've always given them opportunity. If you're going to sell that lot in 2 years, you're going to actually develop it, give us proof of that. But if you're not, we're asking in 2 years, you put that sidewalk in, or we'll do it, and we'll order it in, and then we assess it. And if you want, you can give them more than 2 years. You can give them 5 years if you want to pay it back, and just pay it through the taxes.
Paul, we do have a few of those parcels. We have made the request. We've sent a letter and just asked, do you have plans?
Right. So there we're looking for just direction from council. Don't need to know tonight, but it'd be nice to know how you feel about it, because I know people do come and ask us all the time. The latest was Eagles Landing, but we've had them in the Drake. We've had them a lot of places. So anyways, that's it.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any way that we can get the engineer's estimate so that when we approach, I know we'll have that by that time, but is there a way that we can start looking at what the engineer estimate would be for the linear foot for these sidewalks, so that when we go and present to these neighbors and say, hey, the first would be an ask, I would guess, before we order it in. But I think initially it should be an ask. I know in Eagles Landing, the HOA paid for a section of the golf course's sidewalk because the neighborhood felt that it was unsafe for the kids to have to walk to the Wynn Road for their bus route or for their bus stop. So it wasn't necessarily our responsibility, but we thought for the safety of the kids in our neighborhood that our HOA out of pocket did it ourselves. I don't think that necessarily was proper or we shouldn't have, but we thought it was the best thing to do for those kids that were in our neighborhood that had to walk to that bus stop. So an engineer's estimate so that we could approach any neighbor in any subdivision would be appropriate, and initially an ask before we order it in, I would say. I mean, I would always want to ask first.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. President.
Mr. Roman, if you could just touch back. I know Eagles Landing is a lot newer subdivision than newer old, I wouldn't say old Eastmoreland, but new Eastmoreland between Coy and Wheeling, Star, and Route 2. I live in that subdivision. I mean, how far back would you go back? I wouldn't have a problem putting in sidewalks. However, I know there's a lot of people that's been in there a lot longer than me, and I don't want to have my house stoned by enforcing something that I don't have and to make the whole neighborhood.
Well,
Go berserk.
that's like even on Wheeling Street, we've found cases where people just put topsoil right on top of the sidewalk and planted grass, and it just disappeared, and you just didn't realize it was there. So, you know, and in some cases, there may not be right-of-way for it, so if you're acquiring right-of-way, then it's like, all right, well, then it gets difficult, trust me. It gets extremely difficult. So the older in the neighborhood, the more difficult it is. Even drainage becomes an issue. And I know, like on that Safe Routes to School project, a lot of the people that did call me, they said, hey, when you do it, can you put in drainage for me? And it's like, yeah, we can do that, you know, and then they lit up. Oh, yeah, I think we'd support that, you know, so, but that'll come up in that neighborhood as well. So it just depends on which street we're looking at and what's all in there. But I know the original subdivisions, it's just so, and every city's like this. Some subdivisions had it set to have sidewalks and some just did not, and they just got away with it. And we inherit, you gotta remember, we didn't become a city till 57. So you got a lot of these older neighborhoods, you know, it's done by the county, and that was the luck of the draw as to whether sidewalks were required or not. So it just depends on what we're looking at.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mrs. Paula.
I know it was like 10 years ago, a lot of residents were complaining about the sidewalks to nowhere. And I really want to commend your office because you guys connected a lot of them since then and have really connected a lot of them, and they make sense. And I know when I first started, there was so many houses that there'd be a sidewalk, then no sidewalk, then sidewalk. So if you're only talking, Andrea, of, you know, one here, one there, that's a huge improvement in itself. So if it makes sense to put them in, I'm sure that the property owner will agree, you know, yeah, there needs to be one. So.
I can tell you this, Ms. Paula, that I think, and just like what you guys are all recommending, you start with a letter saying the city is considering this, here is the gaps and the problems we see, these would be the costs. You know, if it's something where we would give them a lot of time to think about doing it themselves. Look, and I'm telling you, if they did it on their own, they'd probably be cheaper in a lot of sense, but sometimes when we group it with other parcels and get that larger quantity, we can get a decent price as well. But even on your own, it still may be cheaper, so it just depends. You give them time to do that, okay? And you want to lay out why it's needed and what the problems are, and they just don't realize the rest of the neighborhood is most of the subdivision realize they all paid for their own sidewalk. There shouldn't be a debate there. It's where there was no sidewalk before, is when they have difficulties with, so. Huh? Yeah. So that's it, Mr. Chairman, for our presentation.
So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion from Mrs. Pauloff for adjournment.
Second.
Do I have a support? I have a support from whom? From President Drake. Any opposition? Do we have to roll call or just?
No.